Welcome to Matters Financial, Geopolitical from a Frontier. Thank you for stopping by. I had a very interesting morning this morning. Went to the Kenya Chamber function and they were hosting the Right Honourable Mark Simmons, who was the Minister for Africa in the Foreign Office, in the Foreign and Commonwealth Office in the United Kingdom for a while, and now seems to be connected, amongst other connections, to Kroll Associates. And Zoe, who is head of the investigation department, stands up and says, "I am the lady who finds the millions. $1 million Zoe," which I thought was quite cool. Mark said Africa is not a homogeneous country, but a vast and complex continent, amongst other things. And Kip said, "This is the time for Africa." If you haven't seen the interview I did with Henry Rotich, the Cabinet Secretary, take a look. They've also put out some press releases this morning regarding where the money physically was received and what happened to it. Macro thoughts: a December rate strike by the Fed could trigger a butterfly effect, and I'm talking about it in the context of thin Christmas type markets and such a seismic event, and we haven't seen a rate hike since. This will be the first rate hike since Twitter. There's never been a rate hike in Twitter's existence, for example, so you can go back and count those years. In chaos theory, the butterfly effect is the sensitive dependence on initial conditions in which a small change in one state of a deterministic nonlinear system can result in large differences in a later state. The name of the effect, coined by Edward Lorenz, is derived from the metaphorical example of the details of a hurricane: exact time of formation, exact path taken, being influenced by minor perturbations such as the flapping of the wings of a distant butterfly several weeks earlier. Lorenz discovered the effect when he observed that runs of his weather model with initial condition data that was rounded in a seemingly inconsequential manner would fail to reproduce the results of runs with the unrounded initial condition data. A very small change, and Fed rate hike is not a very small change, in initial conditions had created a significantly different outcome. Home thoughts: it was very sad to hear that a number of the famous marsh pride of lions in the Masai Mara, had one of them and has been poisoned. Several others are sick and being treated. Put up a photograph of one of the famous lions in question. Of course, the BBC did a lot of TV programming around this pride. Took me to two comments, one by Martin Amis: "Only in art will the lion lie down with the lamb, and the rose grow without thorn." And Winston Churchill: "I am not the lion, but it fell to me to give the lion's roar." Political reflection: Syria is an energy war, with the heart of the matter featuring a vicious geopolitical competition between two proposed gas pipelines. All started in 2009 when Qatar proposed to Damascus the construction of a pipeline from its own North Field, contiguous with the South Pass Field, which belongs to Iran, traversing Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and Syria all the way to Turkey to supply the EU. Damascus instead chose in 2010 to privilege a competing project, the $10 billion Iran-Iraq-Syria, also known as Islamic Pipeline. The deal was formally announced in July 2011, when the Syrian tragedy was already in motion. In 2012, an MOU was signed with Iran. Until then, Syria was dismissed geostrategically as not having as much oil and gas compared to the GCC petrodollar club, but insiders already knew about its importance as a regional energy corridor. Yet from the point of view of Washington, a geostrategic problem lingered: how to break the Tehran-Damascus alliance. and ultimately how to break the Tehran-Moscow alliance. The Assad-Moscow obsession in Washington is a multifaceted hydra. Includes a breaking of the Russia-Iran-Iraq-Syria alliance, plus Hezbollah. Also includes isolating energy coordination among them to the benefit of the Gulf petrodollar clients, vassals linked to US energy giants. Washington's strategy so far of injecting the proverbial empire of chaos logic into Syria, feeding the flames of internal chaos, a pre-planned op by the CIA, Saudi Arabia and Qatar, with the endgame being regime change in Damascus. Iran-Iraq-Syria pipeline is unacceptable in the Beltway, not only because US vassals lose, but most of all because in currency war terms it would bypass the petrodollar. Iranian gas from South Pars would be traded in an alternative basket of currencies. From Washington's point of view, the game is clear: try and isolate Russia, Iran, and a regime unchanged Syria as much as possible from the new Eastern Mediterranean energy bonanza. And that brings us to Turkey, now in the line of fire from Moscow after the downing of the Su-24. Ankara's ambition, actually obsession, is to position Turkey as the major energy crossroads for the whole of the EU, as a transit hub for gas from Iran, Central Asia, and up to now Russia. The Turkish Stream gas pipeline is suspended, not cancelled, as a hub for major gas discoveries in the Eastern Mediterranean, and as a hub for gas imported from the Kurdistan regional government in northern Iraq. Turkey plays the role of key energy crossroads in the Qatar pipeline project. So the big picture from Washington's point of view, what matters most of all once again, is isolating Iran from Europe. Washington's game is to privilege Qatar as a source, not Iran, and Turkey as the hub for the EU to diversify from Gazprom. What's certain is that geoeconomically Syria goes beyond a civil war. That's the point, which doesn't get raised that often. Let's move on to the currency markets. Euro 109.36, dollar index 98.22, Swissy 0.9918, pound 150.55, Aussie I think is also on the bounce this morning. Oh no, it's down 0.7180. India rupee 66.745, South Korean won 1179.34, Rial 381.71, Egyptian pound 782.92, South African rand 1458.51. Every time we see risk aversion, we see the market paring back euro short positions and euro and yen short positions. That's correct. Main focus for the markets remained oil prices and equities, the CRB index hitting fresh 13-year lows overnight, oil prices touching 7-year lows. Commodity currencies gained a little bit, but bear in mind the dollar Canada got as high as 136.23, which was the weakest level for the Canadian dollar since 2004. Dollar index, I'll put up a 3-month chart. I think the euro is going to rally some more from here. So I think that will keep the dollar index on the back foot. Euro dollar might go back to as high as 114.50 in my view. Commodity markets, as I said in November 2014, the commodity super cycle is dead in the water. Dead in its tracks. This is a major turning point, I wrote. If you look at Holger's tweet, risk of leverage, Anglo's default risk jumps to more than 50% as commodity slump hits highly geared companies with net debt. It's all gone wrong for one of the world's biggest mining companies. And this is the company, Anglo, that had a global monopoly on diamond production during almost a century of all but constant expansion. The collapse in commodity prices is proving too much. At the company's financial peak in 2007, when the price of platinum and nickel were near records, annual profit was $7.3 billion, and its stock market value exceeded more than $80 billion. Analysts forecast Anglo American will lose $2.8 billion for this year. This looks like the first signs of capitulation, perhaps in mining. Anglo used to be this big diversified South African conglomerate. It's now selling 60% of its assets. How the mighty have fallen. said Investec banker Rothel. It's shocking what has happened to such a great company. Gold, let me put up a 6-month chart, trading around the 1075 level. It's been working its way around this. Oil prices resumed their slide before a little bounce this morning. US crude falling below $37 a barrel at one point. Brent was below 40 for the first time since early 2009, but it's back near the 41 level. I'll put up a 1-month chart of WTI. I said we could see a 30 handle. We're now in it. Holger again talking about Venezuela, super majority or not. In Venezuela, it's still about oil prices. Have a look at this chart. Rwandans will vote in a referendum on December the 18th on whether to amend the constitution and allow President Paul Kagame to remain in office until as late as 2034. President Kagame has accepted that a referendum be made on the current constitution, the government said. He is a shoo-in. Mozambique has resorted to foreign exchange curbs as Metical dives. Mozambicans will be limited to charging just $13,600 a year on their credit and debit cards when shopping abroad, said the central bank. Cap was an exceptional measure necessitated by the strain the global commodities rout placed on the economy. This is Ernesto Govi, the central bank governor, whom I met. The Metical has plunged 36% against the dollar this year, the most of 23 African countries monitored by Bloomberg. After Zambia's kwacha, the central bank has burned through almost $1 billion of reserves in a fruitless bid to try and defend the currency. Central bank is clutching at straws a bit at this point, having seen that using their already limited foreign exchange reserves is almost futile against a concerted slide of the Metical. The only way to prevent such a further deterioration in its finances would be for the government to restructure debt and do more to ensure the giant gas projects proceed. It is highly unlikely that curbs on credit card spending abroad will be able to stave off a financial collapse, even if such measures are properly implemented. Is it a mirage or is it Maputo? Is a photograph I took of Maputo from the sea a while ago. Fresh oil price rout weighs on African Eurobonds. They are trading to the downside. Nigeria saw dollar issues slip across the curve by as much as $0.75 of a dollar, trading at their lowest since early October. Gabon's 2024 issue eased $1.6 to hit a record low of just over 80 cents in the dollar. Zambia saw its bonds fall by as much as $1.5. Lowest level since early October. So it's been a bloodbath. It continues, particularly for those countries which are seen as monoline commodity exporters. Once militant, now millionaire. Next up, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, only serving politician in South Africa, who's led both a labor union and a business empire. Now chances are rising that he'll lead the country. South African oil share has tumbled 8.03% over the last 4 weeks, and it's down 1.38% year to date. It was positive for most of the year. Dollar rand 14.58. I think 15 is a definite. Egyptian EGX 30 down 25.97% this year. Nigerian oil share down 20.56% this year. Ghana down 13.16% this year. An estimated 20 people have died in floods in the DRC's capital, Kinshasa, over the last 10 days, the authorities say. A weather station in Pretoria reached 41 degrees Celsius Monday, beating the previous December high of 37.3 degrees set in 2003. Corrupt suppliers to miss out on Safaricom KCB tenders, stepping up the fight against corruption after they committed not to do business with any suppliers named in government tendering scandals. This is all about the anti-corruption drive. We will blacklist companies that have been blacklisted by the government in order to effectively choke out unethical practices, said Mr. Collingwood. Herdsmen arrested for poisoning lions in Kenya's Masai Mara. 2 Maasai herdsmen have been arrested for allegedly poisoning lions in the Masai Mara Game Reserve after the lions killed 2 of their cows. Lions are members of the Marsh Pride, which was featured on the BBC's long-running Big Cat Diary series. 2 of the lions are dead, 1 is missing, and at least 5 are being treated by vets. He said the lions attacked the herdsman's cattle when they entered the game reserve in western Kenya on Sunday. Local cattle herders frequently bring their animals into the Masai Mara reserve to graze. I am sick to the heart of the poisoning of the Marsh Pride lions and horrified to think of the pain they suffered as they died. Saba Douglas Hamilton. I'll put up a photograph of the dominant male lion who was apparently killed. Another photograph of 2 male lions with rumbling stomachs just adjacent to the Masai Mara in one of the conservancies that we were staying in. Kenya shilling firm at 102. It's done rather well. It's been at this level for more than 4 weeks. Nairobi all share up 0.3% yesterday, but down 11.57% year to date. NSE 20 down 21.86% year to date. Regaining the 4,000 level is key from a chart perspective. We are at 3994.88. And then if you want to check any listed share, you can. And, all the data is there as well. Once again, thank you for stopping by.